Mr. Adelson remains standing. Everyone else can be seated. Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth?
I swear.
You may take your seat. Please speak loudly and clearly. You can adjust the microphone as need be. Ms. Dugan, you may examine.
Thank you. Could you tell us your name and spell your name for our court reporter, please?
Sure. Robert Todd Adelson, Adelson.
Thank you. And what state do you currently live in?
New York.
And how long have you lived in New York?
12, 13 years.
Okay, so since maybe 2012?
Yes.
All right. What do you do for a living in New York?
I'm an ENT.
Okay, so ear, nose, and throat doctor?
Yes.
And how long have you worked as an ENT?
For 20 years.
How do you know the defendant in this case, Donna Adelson?
She's my mother.
And Harvey Adelson's your dad?
Yes.
Wendy and Charlie Adelson are your siblings?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
In Coral Springs, Florida.
Is that a bit north of Miami?
Yep.
About how long of a drive?
About an hour north of Miami.
Okay. When y'all were growing up, did you all, the five of you, live in the same house as a family?
Yes.
And who's the oldest child?
I am.
Okay. Who's the middle child?
Charlie.
How many years between you and Charlie?
3 years between Charlie and I.
And then who's the youngest then is Wendy?
Yes.
And how many years between Charlie and Wendy?
3 years.
Okay. When you were 18, did you move out of the Coral Springs house?
Yes, when I went to college.
Okay. And did you go to college at University of Florida?
I went to Tulane.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Did you live in Gainesville at some point, though?
I did, yes.
Okay, thank you. So after you went to college at Tulane and then went on to med school, went on to residency, throughout those years, did you continue to talk to your parents and your siblings on a regular basis?
Yes.
And would you see them a couple of times a year?
Yes.
When you were in school, would you go home for the summer?
Yes.
Based on your personal observations throughout your life, of your parents and of your siblings, who is the leader in the family? Who tends to run the show?
I think my mom.
Okay, so Donna Adelson.
Yes.
Um, would you describe Donna Adelson's personality as being more controlling or more laid back?
I think more on the controlling side.
What about is she kind of a more assertive person or a more passive person?
More assertive.
What about your dad, Harvey Adelson? What's his personality like?
I think he's more passive, more go with the flow.
Okay. So they're kind of opposites in that way a bit.
Yeah.
When you and your siblings were growing up, was Donna Adelson a very involved parent?
Yes.
And when I say involved, as far as with your life and with your friends and with school and with that type of thing,
Absolutely.
did she have certain fixed ideas throughout your life of certain things she wanted to happen in you and your siblings' life?
Yes, absolutely.
Was it acceptable if you decided to not do those certain things that she was fixated she wanted you to do? Was that acceptable to her or no?
No, I think she had certain sort of rigid, fixed ideas or impressions for what she wanted for us, and if you went along with that, things were fine. If you didn't, things were not fine.
Did she have strong opinions about who you all married and what you all did for a living and those types of things?
Yes.
And you're obviously a doctor. Was that an acceptable profession to
Yeah.
her?
Yeah. That was okay.
Okay. Um, and was that one of the reasons you became a doctor?
Yes.
Okay. How involved was Donna in yours, Charlie, and Wendy Adelson's life after you grew up, became adults, and had kids of your own?
I think still involved.
Was she more involved with your life, Charlie's life, or Wendy's life, would you say?
Probably more involved with Wendy and probably to a lesser degree with Charlie.
Okay. And then would you be the kind of the least, she's the least involved with your life out of the three?
Yeah, probably because I was older, but sure, I agree.
Okay. So you're the oldest child. You're out of the house before the other two.
Yep.
Okay. And then you also lived other places after you went to college throughout the rest of your life?
Yes.
No, was this like a healthy level of involvement that she had with the three of yours lives, or was it more of like a micromanaging as you saw it?
I think it was certainly between over involved and controlling. It probably lended itself more toward controlling, but there's in various realms, more or less, but I think certainly that was the tension.
Okay. So a little more on the controlling side.
Yes.
Uh, and does that include your personal lives as far as your relationships and in your professions, your jobs?
Yes.
Charlie always got a lot of attention, and then Donna also started giving her attention also to Wendy's life once Wendy starts going through this separation or divorce.
Yeah, I agree.
Or if someone asked Donna Adelson to do something, is she the type of person that just snaps to it, or does she have some questions first?
Overall, this is not good for motion limiting. You may answer the question.
No, I don't think she would just snap to and do what someone told her to.
Okay. Is she the type of person who's going to have some questions if you ask her to do
Yes,
something?
I think she would definitely have some questions.
Okay. What did Donna Adelson tell you about the plan for Wendy Adelson to leave the marriage?
Sure.
Mhm.
When she told me that when that she had been in Tallahassee for several months.
This is Donna Adelson had
Yes, that she had been in Tallahassee for several months, renting a new place for Wendy, arranging for movers, moving money around, and getting things set up. I only knew this after Wendy had moved out, but she was relating to me what had occurred over the summer. And so I heard this all at once, but probably 5, 6 days after Wendy had moved out, um, and then told me that somewhat gleefully or pleased that they timed the phone call to Danny right before he was supposed to give a speech at the meeting he was at.
Okay. So a couple questions about that. You said Donna said that she had been up here in Tallahassee moving money around and getting things ready for Wendy. Do you mean for when Wendy moved out and needed a place of her own?
Yes.
Okay. And what did Donna tell you that she did to try to, um, I guess, hide the fact that they were renting a place for Wendy?
Um, I remember her saying she had used her maiden name so there wouldn't be an Adelson up here renting, or hiring movers or such.
Just so like word of mouth wouldn't get around that Wendy Adelson was renting an apartment, something like that.
Sure.
Okay. So they used Donna's maiden name.
Yes.
Donna did. And then you said that their plan was for Wendy to call Dan Markel as he was getting on stage or right before he got on stage to give a speech at a conference.
That's what I was told.
Okay. And what was Donna's demeanor when she was describing this plan to you about how she was able to set up this place for Wendy to live in? Everything was ready for her. And then this is how she gave Dan the news.
She sounded pleased to me.
Did Donna Adelson tell you that Wendy Adelson was trying to get permission to relocate to Miami?
Yes.
And did Donna Adelson tell you about the $1 million bribe she wanted to offer Dan Markel?
Yes.
Did Donna Adelson tell you information about how much time she was having to spend in Tallahassee?
She said that Wendy needed a lot of help because now she has 2 boys on her own, and so she was up there a lot. And I think yes.
Okay. Who cared more about Wendy Adelson's divorce from your conversations? Was it Donna or Charlie?
Donna.
Um, what types of things does Charlie care about? What are kinds of things is he really into?
I mean, like go-karts, jet skis, uh, going out, boats. Not Wendy's divorce.
Okay. And is Donna Adelson very into her kids and grandkids and
Yes.
their success?
Yes.
Uh, do you think Wendy's divorce or her moving, I guess, do you think Wendy and her boys moving to Miami was particularly important to Charlie Adelson from your observations?
I don't think so.
Now, during the summer of 2014, did Wendy Adelson, I'm going to move on to 2014 now. Did Wendy Adelson send you a text where she referenced having a boyfriend?
Yes.
And was this before Dan Markel's murder?
Yes.
Why was that memorable to you?
It was just unusual. Wendy, never was someone who would, share her, romantic life or boyfriends or, uh, tell me or text me about anyone she was dating. So it just stood out as unique or different.
Okay. Was it your impression that your parents knew about this boyfriend at the time or no?
No, the text said, "Don't tell the parents."
Can you tell me about this text?
Sure. She texted me that she was going to Gainesville for the weekend, and this was 2014. So I last lived in Gainesville about 3 years prior to that. Mentioned that she wanted that. I mentioned the name of Jeff. I asked who is Jeff. The response was my boyfriend. I responded I didn't know, and she said you wouldn't. I didn't hear it from the parents. She says they don't know. And so it just struck me as, and then she sent me some pictures of Jeff with her and the boys. It struck me as unique because she'd never shared the name or photograph of a boyfriend before.
Okay. So it was unusual for her to talk to you about boyfriends at all.
Yes,
But you also felt it was unusual that she's telling you about this boyfriend when even your parents don't know about him yet.
right,
And she was closer to her parents at the time than you.
correct.
Did that strike you as so unusual that after Dan Markel was murdered, you felt, I guess, compelled to tell police, like, hey, I heard she has this boyfriend she hasn't told anybody about named Jeff?
Yes, I did. The FBI came to my house and I spoke to them once, and either it didn't come up or it's a bit nerve wracking talking to the FBI, and that they didn't ask any questions about that. And then I guess over the ensuing week, I'd heard about like this Prius and this unsolved murder. And I remembered, it struck me as odd that I was sent these photographs of a boyfriend and not to tell the parents about him. And so that's when I wanted to have a clean conscience. So I reached out to the FBI and I said, I don't know if this matters, but I figured I would, tell you about this. And they came back for a second interview and looked at the pictures.
Okay. When is your father, Harvey Adelson's birthday?
July 5.
Okay, so on July 5th of 2014, how old would he have turned that year?
70.
Okay, and this is about 2 to 3 weeks before Dan Markel was killed.
Yes.
Did your family do anything to celebrate his birthday that year?
Yes. We had a party at their condo
Okay,
in
was
Miami.
there a gift from the family or from any of you to him?
No, no. I remember an email, and my dad is not someone who wants gifts or a big deal made about him, and so the email is something like, your dad doesn't want gifts; he just wants all of his kids to be with him on his birthday.
And was that from Donna Adelson?
Yes,
So she's basically just letting know you and your kids coming is going to be his gift.
correct,
And everybody, all the kids and grandkids being
correct.
there. Okay. When a birthday gift is given for somebody in the family, does Donna Adelson typically say, "We're gonna get him this. Everybody owes this much. Everybody's gonna pay a third, or whatever it is"?
Yeah, if there was like a big gift we're getting, or they said, we're getting this for someone, and you can be part of it, that was not uncommon.
Was the party a surprise for Harvey?
No,
Um, so you were never told, "Don't tell him about it. It's a surprise."
no,
Anything like that? Don't tell him. Were you not supposed to tell him anything about the party that was a surprise?
no, there was nothing about a surprise birthday.
Was there ever a time in the weeks leading up to the party that you heard that the party may be canceled for any reason?
No, never.
How did you first hear about Dan Markel's murder?
Um, yeah, I heard the day after the shooting occurred, so that would be Saturday, July 19th. Um, I was at a meeting in Chicago, and I think I got a phone call first, and that I was in a meeting, and so I just said I can call. Can I call you later? And then I got a text message shortly thereafter, like right before 10 in the morning. It said like tragedy here, please call.
And are these from Donna Adelson?
Yes.
Okay. So were you able to call her that morning from the conference in Chicago?
Yeah, so I walked out and went to the hotel lobby and just hit call.
Okay. And tell us about that conversation with her.
So it's one of those moments that you'll just remember forever. So I remember being in the lobby of the Westin, and I assumed something terrible had happened, and but I wasn't ready for it. She said, so we just want to let you know that Danny's been shot, and they took him to the hospital, but he didn't make it. And I mean, it didn't make any sense. And I probably asked like a few medical questions, and they said they're driving up to go help Wendy, and we'll talk to you later. We can't talk now.
Okay. Was she crying in that conversation?
Not in
Donna
that
Adelson?
conversation.
Sir?
No, she was not.
Okay.
It was very matter of fact.
Did she ever give you any further detail that weekend about how he'd been shot, or other than just Danny was shot and he didn't make it?
I think it was the next day. So the only really other time that I spoke with him that weekend, I was in the airport going home like Sunday afternoon. So it was definitely the next day, and it was the first time I could actually have any kind of conversation. And one of the things that she told me is, it bothered me, but I didn't have any other details about. But she said that you know, someone went to the front door and said, "Are you Dan Markel?" and then shot him. Um, and then I said, "Well, how could you know that? Who's telling you that?" And she said, "Well, that's just what they're telling us." And it just
So she said someone told her that someone knocked on Danny's door, said, "Are you Dan Markel?" He said yes, and the shooter shot him.
that's the story I heard. And later we found out that wasn't what happened. But that story bothered me a lot because there's only one way you could hear that story.
Was she crying when she told you that information?
No,
You mentioned earlier that law enforcement contacted you after Dan Markel's murder? Did they contact you to try to see if you knew any information?
yeah, they came to our house. I was already at work, and so they talked to my wife. It had to be a Wednesday or Thursday, so I was already at work.
And is this your house in New York?
Yes.
Okay. And did you end up talking to law enforcement and letting them answering their questions, letting them know what you knew?
Yeah, they came to my office the next day, and we with two agents, and we had we had an interview.
Okay. Um, After that conversation with, you said it was the FBI earlier, right?
Yes.
Okay. After that conversation with the FBI, uh, did Donna Adelson ever say anything to you about having talked to law enforcement or the FBI?
It was either that afternoon or the next day, but and she had called me and said, just want to let you know, if the police come around, don't talk to them.
Okay, so she told you not to talk to law enforcement.
Correct.
Did you let her know that you already had talked to law
Yeah, I
enforcement?
said I already did.
And what did she say to that?
She said, "Oh, well, you don't know anything anyway."
You don't know anything anyway?
Correct.
Was that an unusual statement coming from your mother?
Yeah, it just, I mean, everything that week was unusual, but I mean, I clearly didn't know anything, but I wasn't going to not talk to the FBI if they show up at my house.
After the murder of Dan Markel, did Donna Adelson seem curious about who killed Dan Markel?
No.
Was there a complete lack of curiosity?
Yeah, no, nobody seemed curious.
Did you actually ever ask her, like after the murder, like, "Hey, like, what do you think happened? What do you?"
Yeah, and the conversations were kind of rerouted, or that was certainly discouraged, and it was probably like maybe sometime like mid-August, when I finally had a chance to ask and say, what is going on? This was not a small event. This was getting a lot of notoriety. And I said, what do you guys think happened? Um, and she had said, I don't know and I don't care. It doesn't concern me.
Was that out of character for her to not be curious and not be asking some questions?
Yeah, I mean, it was an unsolved murder of my former brother-in-law, like someone that we all know very well. I mean, if it was like some neighborhood gossip, people would be interested. This was like national interest, and nobody had any curiosity about who did this to Danny.
Is a person, you mentioned that, not only is it your brother-in-law, but it was like national news at that point as well.
Yes.
And regardless of it being national news or not, I mean, is a person dying from gun violence an extremely unusual thing to happen in your family?
Yeah, I mean, to this day, Danny's the only person that I know who's died from gun violence or been a victim of gun violence. So it's unique in that manner.
What would your mom, Donna Adelson, do if you did try to like ask her any more about Danny's murder after that?
it wasn't a subject for discussion. It would be rerouted, or it was just not a subject to discuss.
When you say rerouted, do you mean like a changing the subject?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fast forward to 2016. Do you remember in May of 2016 when Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera were arrested?
Yeah, I do. I actually I like saw it in the OR lounge. Someone told me about it. It had to be like a Wednesday, and the
And you were in the like the operating room
yeah,
lounge,
it was
and
the
someone
lounge.
told you about
Yeah,
it.
it was someone else, because
Okay.
stories like this people see on Twitter or such, and I remember someone telling me like, hey, did you hear about that the case, because it's more than one person had followed it, and I saw it, and then that was on the 26th, and I remember the dates because our anniversary is on the 28th of May. My wife and I was like, should we call them? Like they arrested some guy who killed Danny, and
When you say them, you mean like should we
my
call
parents.
my parents? And
Yes.
yeah, okay. So it was big news that even people you work with were seeing that there were finally some arrests made.
Right.
Okay. And that was 2 days before your anniversary, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So, did you and your wife eventually talk to your parents?
We did. Like we thought, like, should we call them? And we figured, they if they wanted to call us, they would call us, and then they didn't. And so we figured, well, they'll call us on our anniversary, and so we can just sit tight. And I'm sure it's pretty stressful. And this guy was arrested in Miami, and so they called us on our anniversary, which was the 28th.
Okay. So that was 2 days after the arrest, I think.
2 days after I found out. Yes.
Okay. 2 days after you found out. Thank you. So on the 28th, did you talk to Deana Adelson?
Yes.
All right. And when she called you, was she telling you the good news that Danny's killers were arrested?
No, he just called us for anniversary, and wished us well, and had some small talk for a bit. Um, I kind of let it go for a little bit, and I mean, this was not small news, and so I finally broached the topic and said, they found the guy, they arrested someone who killed Danny. There's no response, and I said it, at least 2 or 3 times, that they arrested, they made an arrest, they got the guy who killed Danny. Yeah, and then her response was, I've got to go.
And then did she hang up the phone after that?
Yes.
And did you ever talk to her about it again ever after that?
No.
Other than, her reaching out for happy birthdays, happy anniversaries, that kind of thing, was that the last conversation you had with her?
That was the last time I spoke to her.
That was Robert Adelson, composed, reserved, but carrying the weight of decades in his voice. You can feel the sadness in his restraint, the internal battle behind every measured word. Imagine sitting in a courtroom testifying against your 75-year-old mother who is on trial for orchestrating a murder. Imagine knowing that speaking the truth might also mean losing what little family you have left. The pain of that moment was unmistakable. I suspect it was not just grief, it was the deep, aching conflict between love and truth, a conflict between loyalty and conscience, and a conflict between the family Robert was born into and the person he had to become to survive the family. As he testified, Robert wasn't only recalling events. He was probably reliving years of emotional tension, the confusion of loving someone who caused so much harm, and the guilt that comes with finally breaking the silence. I suspect his calmness probably was discipline. It was the strength of someone who had already done the hardest work, and that is choosing integrity over denial. For Robert, this moment was more than a testimony. My gut tells me it was a confrontation with years of emotional conditioning, which included the family rule. We don't talk about it, we keep it quiet. Every family system has its own pattern, a kind of emotional DNA that determines how love, pain, and power move through generations. Some families pass down empathy, honesty, and resilience, and others pass down silence, control, and fear disguised as love. In the Adelson family, control seemed to echo. Donna Adelson's need to direct every aspect of her children's lives became the pulse of the household. And I suspect Harvey tolerated it in a quiet way. Wendy and Charlie probably learned early that approval came at the cost of their individuality. But Robert Adelson broke this pattern. By walking away, he chose distance over dysfunction, peace over control, and truth over silence. Robert's separation from his family probably didn't happen suddenly. It probably was a slow awakening for him. While his siblings remained entangled in their mother's expectation, Robert likely began to see the toxicity for what it was and likely realized if I stay, I will lose myself. In family systems therapy, this is called differentiation. And it simply means when a person learns to hold on to their identity despite the presence of family pressure, dysfunction, and rules. Differentiation does not automatically mean a lack of love. It means refusing to sacrifice your sanity for love. And I think Robert made a conscious choice to protect his peace, even when it meant losing his place in the family narrative. This choice is usually not easy to make. It means saying no to manipulation and guilt, and yes to solitude, genuineness, and eventually healing. People often ask, how can children who grew up in the same family, same household, turn out so differently? This is a great question, and it goes right to the heart of our development. The answer comes down to nature and nurture. Every child is born with a unique temperament, their own emotional fingerprint. That natural wiring shapes how they see love, rules, and even what feels safe. But the family environment works like soil for a seed. Our temperament, the seed, holds potential, but the soil determines how it grows. In healthy soil, traits like sensitivity, independence, or assertiveness can grow into empathy, confidence, and leadership. But in unhealthy or controlling soil, those same traits can twist into struggle. Sensitivity can turn into anxiety, independence into isolation, and assertiveness into defiance. The seed does not change, only the environment does. And that difference can shape an entire life. Wendy found safety in compliance. She learned early that the easiest way to avoid conflict was to agree, to smile, and to do what was expected. Charlie adapted at a young age and was parentified. He was expected to take on adult responsibilities and manage emotions that were not his to carry. Robert, however, adapted through distance. He realized that staying too close to the family's dysfunction came at the cost of his peace and genuineness. I suspect Robert learned to protect himself by stepping back and withdrawing. Robert seemed naturally sensitive and emotionally aware. He seemed like someone who thought deeply, noticed feelings, and cared about others. In a healthy home, these traits can become important strengths. When a child's emotions are accepted, they learn that it's safe to express themselves, that empathy connects them to others, and that reflection helps to keep them balanced. But in a controlling or emotionally unpredictable home, these same traits can feel dangerous. A sensitive child quickly learns that showing emotion might lead to conflict instead of comfort. So instead of using empathy to connect, they use it to predict, constantly reading everyone's moods to stay safe. In this kind of environment, emotional intelligence can turn into what? Hypervigilance, which is always being on alert. Empathy can turn into people pleasing, and reflection can turn into overthinking and trying to stay one step ahead of harm. These traits that were meant to help a child build relationships become tools for survival instead. That is likely what happened to Robert. The sensitivity, emotional depth, and empathy that could have made him open and trusting instead became his armor. His nature gave him awareness. His environment taught him how to use it. And in the end, he used that awareness to protect himself by walking away. It seems in his younger years, Robert complied. He dated a woman his parents did not approve of, and under pressure, he walked away from her. He traded himself for his family's acceptance. He later married someone who fit the family mold, the quote unquote right kind of woman by his family's standards. On the outside, it looked stable, but on the inside, it probably felt very empty. Years later, when Robert reconnected with the woman he truly loved, I can imagine that something powerful happened. It was not just a rekindled romance. It may have been the moment he reclaimed the part of himself he had once given up to please others. This may have been the moment when Robert stopped living by someone else's expectations and finally started to listen to his own voice. In therapy, we call this self-reclamation, the process of reclaiming your authentic self. This is the instant a person decides to stop living for other people's approval and begin to live in alignment with their own truth. It's the process of uncovering the parts of yourself that were buried underneath years of fear, people pleasing, or unmet expectations. It marks a shift from chasing external validation to creating inner fulfillment, not by being who others need you to be, but by finally becoming who you truly are. Here is some food for thought. If the woman Robert once loved had not still been there waiting, his life may have taken a completely different path. Without her, he might have continued the pattern of performing and complying and existing, but not truly living. He may have stayed trapped in the same cycle of control and approval seeking that defined his family. She may have reminded him what real connection feels like, what real love without control feels like, what acceptance without condition feels like. And truth be told, it does not always take a romantic relationship to break the cycle. Sometimes it's a friend, a mentor, or even a relative who shows you a healthier way to love and to be loved. Any relationship that models safety, Respect and unconditional acceptance can become the mirror that helps you see how unhealthy your quote unquote normal really is. It is possible that one safe connection is what gives a person the courage to finally step out of the system that's been holding them hostage. Healing from a controlling or dysfunctional family is not quick or simple. At first, freedom can feel confusing. Silence can feel too quiet. Even a sense of calm can feel unsafe because your body has learned to find safety in chaos. That's why in therapy, the first step is stabilization. It's helping your body and mind realize that peace is not punishment, it's safety. Then there is grief. Grieving not just the family you lost, but the family you never had. Grieving the hope that love might one day come without conditions. Emotionally, this truth can be hard to face. When we start to grieve what we cannot control, guilt often tries to fill that space. Because guilt feels sometimes easier than helplessness, it tricks us into thinking, if it was my fault, maybe I could have fixed it. Part of healing, though, is learning to put guilt down. Grief does not need to turn into blame. It just needs to be felt. There is also something called ambiguous grief. When your family is still alive, but emotionally unavailable. This is hard. It's mourning the love or safety you always hoped for, but never received. Through all of this pain, there is resilience. Not the absence of hurt, but the ability to respond to the hurt differently. Robert is proof that even when you grow up surrounded by dysfunction, you can still learn to create safety instead of chaos, peace instead of pain. When you stop trying to change the past, you can finally start shaping what comes next in your life. Then comes self-trust and controlling families. Your inner compass gets distorted. Therapy helps you listen again to that inner voice. And then the next step is what? Reconnection. You begin building new safe relationships, people who feel like a chosen family. You learn that love isn't something you earn through obedience, and that calm does not have to come before chaos. Sometimes calm can simply stay consistent. After that comes boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks. They don't reject family, they protect peace. They say, I can love you and still say no. Finally, there's forgiveness, not reconciliation or excusing harm, but letting go of the grip the past has on your present. And when that release begins, something starts to shift. Healing stops being just about recovery. It becomes growth. That's what we call reintegration. When you stop reacting to pain and start building from wisdom. It's when you begin to live not from what hurt you, but from what you have learned. The goal of therapy is not to erase your past. It is to change your relationship with it and to teach your mind and heart to respond in a new, healthy way. So Robert's story isn't just about survival. It is about transformation. It is about choosing truth, even when that truth costs you connection. In regards to this whole Adelson series. No amount of psychological insight, no understanding of family dynamics will ever justify what happened to Mr. Dan Markel. I want to be very clear about that. It was wrong. It was cruel. It was irreversible. Donna and Charlie and anyone proven to have played a role should be held accountable. And while questions still surround Wendy and Harvey's awareness and involvement, their proximity to the events cannot be ignored. Their actions deserve honest scrutiny, in my opinion, because truth is the only foundation justice can stand on. From every tragedy, there are lessons about control, resentment, ego, and the power of choice. We study these cases not to relive the pain, but to learn from it, to recognize danger before it repeats, and to help others break cycles that destroy families instead of healing them. And amid all of this pain, one thing continues to stand out: the grace of Dan Markel's parents. Ruth and Phil Markel presented with strength, dignity, and unwavering composure. In my opinion, their response wasn't filled with a hate or celebration. It was filled with something deeper: humanity. They acknowledged the suffering of everyone touched by this tragedy, even the children of those responsible. And this kind of compassion is something that is very rare. It's the kind of grace that turns grief into purpose and loss into legacy. Their words reminds us that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to become like the people who have harmed you in such a profound way. They have modeled what true strength looks like, holding space for justice and empathy at the same time. That's a hard thing to do. Before we close this series, let us bring the focus back to where it belongs. To Dan Markel, a father, a son, a scholar, and a man whose kindness and intellect touch many people. Too often we remember the noise, the courtroom, the chaos, the headlines. But tonight, I want to remember the light of Dan Markel, the passion he had for teaching, the mind that sought truth and understanding. Dan Markel, your life still teaches us. May your memory be a quiet light in dark places, guiding us toward understanding, compassion, and peace. I am Miss D, and thank you. Thank you for watching and growing with me. Bye-bye, and I will see you next time with a brand new series. Thank you.